Welcome to my channel. In this video I'll be showing you how to cut and sew this lovely dress. It's simple with cut together sleeve. If you like to know how to sew it, watch the video to the end. Okay, so these are the fabrics I'm using. I got Ankara fabric and sequins. The Ankara is 3 yards. Okay, you may use 2.5 or 3 also, depending on how big you want it to be or more. So I use this sequence to get the fabric. Actually using that shade, I had to go and look for a fabric that has a shade of the sequence. So I've kept the fabric on fold into 4 for the back and the front. So I use the whole of the 3 yards to put it on fold. And what's determined what I kept on fold is my shoulder measurement. My shoulder divided by 2 plus the sleeve length that I wanted. The sleeve length is 10 inches, okay, plus 3 inches that's 8 plus 10 is already 18, plus 3 inches is 21. So I just had to exhaust the whole of the fabric, keeping it into unfold into 4. All right, so then the length, I'm using the length of 38 plus seam allowance. So if you want your length to be more than that, you may fold. You just have to fold the length to what you want. So right now I'm putting the measurement. I put the shoulder to waist, shoulder to hip, and then shoulder to full length from that beginning part. So I'm marking it on the other side of the fabric to form a straight line. You do not put your shoulder to bust yet. You put your shoulder to waist, the shoulder to hip, and then the shoulder to full length. All right, so I'm putting you go down by 1.5 inches for your shoulder slope, and then you connect it to 3 inches natural neckline that we use. So I've formed the slanted line. Now from that point you determine the wideness of your sleeve. It's a cut together sleeve, so you determine how wide you want the sleeve to be. I'm using 10 inches wideness. That's when you open is about 20 inches. So because it's a free gown, so I added it from up. I came down by 2 inches and then marked my sleeve wideness, which is 10 plus 1 inch seam allowance. So I measure it all through again so that I'll have a straight line from the up. So I have about 13 inches. So that is what's for my chest line or bust line. It is on that line I'm now placing my bust measurement. All right, so I added 1.5 ease and 1.5 seam allowance. So I did the same thing for the waist divided by 4 plus 1.5 seam allowance and 1.5 ease. The hip, the same thing, and what I had on the hip I placed it on the full length, and so I have a straight cut there. So I'm drawing out the line well so that you can see what I've drawn out there. So you just put your measurement and ease, okay, and sewing allowance. All right, so from the hem I went in by 1 inch and connected it to the straight line so that your sleeve will come out well. That's on the chest line, on the bust line, going by 1 inch and draw your sleeve well. Then you come down from the bust by 1, you come out by 1 inch and draw a curve from that armhole, that's from the sleeve up. You just draw a curve to the waistline like you're seeing me do here. So you come out by 1 inch and then you draw a curve from the sleeve up to the waist area, and then you draw your hand. That way you have your cut together sleeve. All right, so this is how I'm going to cut it out. We are done. Okay, so I'm cutting out from the hem then to the side. So you can see where you curve from the sleeve up to the waist, then you have your straight cut to the full length. Okay, so right now I'm cutting the shoulder part. Just going, I stopped halfway so that I can draw the neckline. Now, so remember, this is for the front and the back. So I'll be marking out the back and front neckline. I use 3.5 wideness and 3.5 depth for the front, and I'll be using 1.5 depth for the back. Okay, so I've drawn out the back neck and then that of the front. So I'm cutting out the back neck first. Then I cut through the shoulder so that I can bring out the back fabric. Then that sleeve, that slant that I had on the sleeve, I'm cutting it out. Okay, so I'm bringing out the back um fabric so that we can now cut the front neckline. This dress is very easy and simple to cut. You can cut about 3 of this in a day, all right, or you can cut and sew if you are very fast. Okay, so for the yoke, I'm using pattern paper to cut it because the sequence, I won't be able to draw on the sequence perfectly. So on the waist area, I went in by 5 inches. Now this all depends on what you want, and you may also decide to do this directly on your yoke if you can. Okay, so I marked out from the neckline, I came down by 6 inches. Okay, then I connected to the shoulder parts. All right, depending on what you want. Okay, so I'm just drawing out the shape of the yoke the way I want it to be. On the chest line, the chest area, that part, I came out by about 8.5, although I discovered that it was too big later on, so I had to reduce it by 2 inches. So I used 6 inches on that chest area at the end of the day, and 3 inches on the waist. I reduced them by 2 inches so that it won't be too wide. So I was just trying to draw out the side of this yoke, and it's not giving me what I want, so I had to just draw it from my mind. I curve it out. Like I said, you can just be creative and do it the way you want yours to be. Okay, so I'm sorry it's not showing. When I cut it out, you're going to see it well. Right now I'm adding back half-inch seam allowance for it, so that I'll use it to turn. I'm turning with net. I'll turn it with net to make it easy to sew, so that I don't have to be dragging or fighting with the sequence when I'm sewing. Okay, so I've added the seam allowance around it, and then I'll be cutting it out. So you decide how wide you want your yoke to be and the pattern the way you want it to be. You may make it to be an asymmetric design, or you can still keep it on full like this. So this is what I have, and when I open it up on my fabric, it's giving me what I want, although I had to reduce the wideness because it was too wide and it was almost getting to the sides. Okay, so you can also make it to be longer than that if you want, and then when you sew the seam allowances, or do if I sew the seam allowances, it's going to reduce. So this is the sequence, like I said, and I'll be using the yoke to cut out the sequence. I've already used the fabric to cut the neckline of this sequence, so I just place the pattern on it and I use it to cut it out. There are some of the styles that they did, and you have to put a band right around the neck. I didn't want to do it like that because this is a sequence, and if I had done like that, the sequence would have been itching my neckline. So I just thought of this idea, like why not cut it like this so that it still gives the same kind of look, and I'll also prefer it more like this. So I've cut out the sequence and I'm keeping it on the main fabric to just see how it looks like, and it's beautiful already. Like I've not sewn it and I really like the way it looks. So this is the net I'll be using to turn it so that when I'm sewing it on the main fabric, it will be easier for me than trying to drag the net and the sequence, trying to fold it. So I just place the net on it like this and I cut out the sequence with the net. Okay, I use the sequence to cut the net. All right. Like I have to pin a lot so that it doesn't shift, because the net and the sequence, they are not too friendly with each other. Anybody that is not patient cannot sew, honestly. You have to be very, very patient. Okay, so I'll be fixing a pocket. Now to fix the pocket, I'm just marking out the way where the pocket will be. For those that do not know, from your waist you come down by like 1.5 or 1 or 2. Then you mark the wideness of the pocket, which is 6. You must make sure that the pocket is in between the waist and the hip. Okay, so I'm cutting out the piece that I'll be using for the pockets. I'm making it 5 inches 8 inches wide for the width, and then the depth is 10 inches. I have another video on how to fix a pocket, like to cut and fix a pocket, a side that's a side seam pocket. Okay, seam pocket by the side, in seam pocket. Okay, in seam pocket. So I'll be dropping the link of that video in the description box so that this video does not become too long if you don't know how to fix a pocket. Okay, so I'm just cutting out the piece, the first one. For the first side, you can see it's 2 pieces, then I use it to cut out another one, so we have 4 pieces of fabric, which is 8 inches by 10 inches for our pocket. So for the net and the sequence, I've sewn round, there I've sewn it round, leaving the shoulder and the neck area. So I'm bringing out the front side. Okay, so I've been able to neatly turn the edges and I've ironed it. You can see it. So right now I'll be placing this neck area on the fabric. You can see the way now I've sewn it around. I want an opening on the middle part, so I just check the middle part. I'm coming down by like 3.5 inches for that opening so that I can wear it easily, because the neck is not that wide. All right, so I'll also round the neck like so, and then create my opening before I keep. Right now the front side of the sequence is facing the wrong side of the fabric, so that by the time I finish sewing and I turn to the right side, you have the right, you see it when I sew. Okay, so you keep the front side of the sequence of the yoke on the wrong side of the fabric. So right now I've cut open the line, the opening that I'm creating, and then I'm turning it to the right side now. So this is how it is. So you are going to do a lot of pinning. You just pin it in place to make sure that it's laying well before we will now sew. Now because I've been able to turn with net, so it's just easy for me to just use my stitch, the machine to stitch like a top stitch, run it over and fix it. So right now I've done that. Now I'm just going to I turn the neck of the back with, you can turn with a bias or with the same fabric. I turn with the same fabric. So you are going to just sew, and I folded the hem, and I've also folded the sleeve part. So you just sew the shoulder together like so, and then sew the side also, and that's all. Then I fix the pocket. Like I said, I'll be dropping the link on how to fix the pocket. So you can see this dress is very easy, very easy, very easy to sew. All right, so that's the space for the pockets. You can watch the video so to the end, and here we have it. So beautiful, it's so beautiful. You can make this 3 in a day, as in 3 of this in a day. If you have found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. See you in my next video.